Hey. So yeah, here we are, just going to set up all my references here. This is a set of pictures that I'm doing, which is for an RPG campaign that I'm actually playing. I'm a player in it. And I had very rudimentary art done for the characters when we started because I was very busy. But now I just wanted to do a better set of pieces for them. This is the character that I'm going to be doing today. And I can show... Oops. This is my character. It's my girlfriend's character, and then here's the other one that I have done, and they have a different background for each, but yeah. This is going to be the yellow. Then we have another one here, which is a Habozi, which is like a gliding gorilla. It's a gorilla that has like flying squirrel type membranes, and the last one is a turtle. So yeah, this is kind of the last humanoid one. I want to do the humanoids first to get the style down more. Make sure what style I was going for with the humans, and then the other ones are more flexible than that. I think I'll leave the yellow up here just so it's a little bit less cold and boring to look at. I can also quickly paste her previous art, which is here. I did those really quick, like I had the actual players with me, just telling me what they wanted, and I was drawing them real quick. So, you know, not only are they kind of these chibis, they're also not especially like stylized, just kind of drawing them as I was going. So these ones have a lot more personality to them, they have a lot more interesting poses. Yeah, might as well get started. I hope the music isn't overly loud. I'm going to lower it a little bit. There you go. Am I all set? I think so. All the right brushes. So yeah, this is basically line work. We were supposed to have the game today to actually play this campaign, but some people couldn't, so it got cancelled, which happens about half the time. You get up to the day thinking the game's going to happen, and then somebody can't. It's the thing with tabletop, unfortunately. Needs to work on everybody's schedules. You know, everybody has a job. And a lot of people, you know, have very gig-based jobs. There are some teachers, but it's also like a lot of freelance people, including myself. But my hours are actually fairly flexible. They start at a time, they start after business hours, where with my main job, I can usually not be working, just leave it to the next day. Depends, sometimes not, but yeah. An artist pretty much, you know, I need to have a certain output, so I don't leave people waiting too much, and so I can actually make as many commissions as I want to make. This isn't perfect black, but I can fix it. So to do this, there you go. I thought it was kind of weird, but I just looked at the brush and the brush was fine. What was I saying? Oh yeah, art is pretty flexible, which is good. But yeah, I have some friends, including the player of this character, just sometimes has a job where they can't afford the time to play the RPG all of a sudden. But it wasn't them this time. She's going to actually have lips. None of the other characters had thus far. Just felt that they didn't look best with lips. But yeah, this is like these characters. When I do characters for, commissions, I do a lot of RPG characters. I stick more usually to what people want. They usually already have a pretty good idea of what they want. In these campaigns, I usually have a little bit more freedom. They have a general design for the character, but I get to design them a little bit more. Especially these, like her had only a few characters. She's kind of based on a type of owl, but when it comes to like the armor for her and all that, and like the really thick eyebrows and the way I designed her eyes, that was kind of just up to me. This one as well. She had like the hairstyle was set, and the general like having a cape, green, basic colors, but otherwise I also got to do most of it. And of course mine is 100% mine designs. It's fun. I feel like I'm not super great at character design, but it's something that I do enjoy doing and would like to do more. Just don't get a lot of chances because I'm usually either doing commissions or art that's supposed to get visibility, and for that it's usually best to go with fan art. So I try to sneak character design in there, but usually has to be in a very limited amount. I would like to just do OCs. It sounds like a lot of fun, but can't really afford it. Not sure about nose styles. Let me look at the other ones. I should have them up here, so I don't have to activate the layers each time. Oops, alright. And I guess I'm gonna flip this. gotta remind myself, especially with these quicker pieces, to always be flipping the canvas. That way you notice mistakes a lot more. I like really exaggerating eyebrows in elves. I think I'll pull it a little bit down here. Yeah, this should be fine. I like more cartoony styles as well, which I haven't gotten to do as much recently. Maybe if I do a little bit more people will commission things in that style. If they can look at it and be like, oh, I want it like these. So that's partially something I'm hoping for with this series. Because you need to have something to show in a particular style for people to ask for it. They mostly commission things similar to what they've already seen you do. Which makes sense, it's safer. This nose is tricky because she's like, it's supposed to be asymmetrical, like this is the axis of her face. It's supposed to be pulled to the side along with her mouth, and her eye here is a little bit more squeezed than this other one. She's like contracting this, so it's tricky to tell when stuff isn't all straight if you are within the symmetry of the face. Hi Arlek, what's up? I'm drawing non-commission art because it's for an RPG group that I'm playing in. This is an elf ranger, by the way, which, you know, probably shows. But yeah, she's like a normal elf, vanilla elf. Pretty basic build, but you know, the rest of the group's so weird, like it's all really alternative races. She's the only like base player handbook race in the whole party. Looking cool, thanks. Yeah, trying to do a lot more dynamic styles than for most of my RPG stuff. I'm a bit worried with this piece about things overlaying and making it difficult to kind of correct anything, because she has this really big hair and like the hair that comes in front of the ears, is in front of stuff, and then she has bangs that are kind of in front of her eyebrows. I'm actually thinking at least the hair I should probably do in a separate layer. But the problem with having two layers that look the same is I often accidentally switch layers. Like I mess with something in the head and I forget to switch back and keep drawing the other one. And you're not going to notice because they just look the same. But it's probably best that I do that. Because I feel like I'm going to want to change stuff like this torso. I'm not super... And the torso, like the upper half of the torso, I guess. I'm not super happy with. Seems a bit weird. I guess I'll do the arms. Like I decided on where I want the arms and all that. And the legs. Maybe I'll do the arms and the legs, and then I'll notice if the torso seems weird. So I feel that her chin should also be a little bit more pushed to this side because of her expression. I watched with my girlfriend recently. We watched the first 3 episodes, which is all there is out of Vox Machina. I have friends who listen to Critical Role. I never really put in the time because these D&D streams are so long. I actually, way back, I heard a couple of episodes of Adventure Zone, which is by my brother and me guys, and similar length is like 2-hour chapters. But I didn't get far on that either, so I figured that Critical Role will probably do the same thing. I'll probably like not put in the time to watch, or rather listen to it for a long time, and then I'll forget where I was and not get back into it because I won't remember the plot. But the actual series is pretty fun. I'm assuming it's by the people who did Korra and Voltron. It looks very similar. But yeah, I like the general tone of the D&D and D&D campaigns, as opposed to like Tolkien and the stuff that it was more inspired in, because it tends to be a lot more I don't know, it has a lot more sense of humor usually. I've never really heard of people having D&D campaigns that they play super straight, because at the end of the day it's a bunch of friends just having fun together, and it tends to be a lot more lighthearted. It's a very pop fantasy setting also. There's just so much, it's kind of a comic book world in how many fantastical elements exist in the same universe, to the point where it becomes kind of a silly universe. So it's hard to play a super straight fantasy story out in there. So I like their energy. I'm actually surprised that they never did something like that for Dungeons and Dragons, like officially. That they never licensed something. There are a couple of movies. I actually watched the Jeremy Irons movie a while back, which is pretty bad, but kind of in a likable way. I don't know. I didn't actively hate it. Like it sucks, but I didn't hate it. But it's kind of surprising they never really did that. Like, it's a pretty big brand name. Even people who never played Dungeons and Dragons know what it is. And I'm pretty sure the only thing Hollywood cares about when it comes to greenlighting projects is have people heard the brand name. Not even have they engaged with it, have they heard it, are they familiar with it. So you think anything with a known brand name would get a movie. Still haven't gotten into D&D, I've been waiting for years, but I haven't done any research or get in contact with people. Yeah, there is another artist that I was talking to here that said he wanted to start a game. I couldn't because I'm already into games, and you know, even those can't seem to work out. So if in case he's still looking to start a campaign, I could point you his way. I'm sure he'll set you up. Like, not knowing what you're doing isn't really an impediment to just getting into a game. It's definitely a community where everybody's super willing to teach you. At least when you do, like, when you're playing with friendly people. I don't know about like getting into a forum or something and just saying, hey, I want to be in any game, and maybe the culture there is more gatekeepy and people might want to I expect people to know what they're doing. But it's really not as complicated as it may seem. Like, creating your character initially can be like a bit dense because it's very front loaded. You have to, you know, have a bunch of stuff set. But the actual mechanics of playing the game, and I play, like, me and my friends, we play 3.5, which is supposed to be more like harder to manage than newer versions. And even then, it's not actually a complicated game. It's just kind of a decent amount to kind of understand at first. But just playing video games, you already will get it. It's more how you arrive at the numbers that is complicated, and even, you know, nowadays there are PDFs that kind of work like an Excel sheet where you just fill in stuff and they will do all the math and all the you know, fill it in everywhere else where that value gets filled in, and then do all the math that determines your stats, because you have your base stats and then you have a bunch of stuff that is derived from them. Check on the secondary. So that can feel a little bit like bureaucratic work when you're filling in your character for the first time, but the actual mechanics of playing the game is pretty simple. It's basically a D20 system. Whatever you want to do, you're going to have a variable of how good you are at doing that. Then you roll a D20 and add that variable, and that's what you got in that. And sometimes people are going to roll their own thing against it, or it's just a certain value that you need to reach. Either way, the bigger number determines whether you succeeded. Not super complicated. Otherwise, it's basically a miniatures game. It's kinda, when it comes to combat, it's basically what you'll be familiar with like a tactics game. It's very interesting. I've always found cool how personalized things can go about creating your character. Yes, absolutely. Like, character creation in D&D is just way more fun than in any video game I have ever played. Just because there's this huge amount of material for it. You know, any supplementary materials, usually you should like clear with your game master. Like, can I play this? Like, can I use stuff from this? But you know, once a book is cleared, you can just go into the book and look for stuff. And yeah, there's so many options to build and so much room for creativity. Yeah, you kind of feels by the end, like when your character has grown a lot in level, kind of feels like you're like a whole thesis that you've written. You know, like I have a whole project of a character. Like monks, my character is a monk here. Monks are not considered super good in most editions of D&D. They got kind of gradually less considered good. But in 3.5, they get criticized a lot as being kind of jack of all trades, master of none. Like they're a mediocre thief, a mediocre fighter, you know. But I had, because they really don't do that much damage, and they can't wear armor, so even though they have kind of bonuses for being good at dodging stuff, really you're going to take a good deal of damage. And you're not going to hurt people that much. And you're kind of good at mobility stuff, but again, a rogue is going to be better at those things. So anyway, I had kind of a build in mind. I really wanted to do a monk, I kind of like the idea, so I came up with... First, I got this really obscure race, which is a Saurian shifter. Shifters are basically werewolves, where you get to turn werewolf for a certain amount of time per day, on purpose. So it's basically a werewolf but dinosaur. Although you could mostly make his build with a regular shifter. So that helps a bit with resistance, but mostly his thing is all about stalling large numbers of people. Like he can trip people, stun people with stunning fist. He's all about like delaying everybody, like stopping everybody and making them lose actions and lose turns and kind of be slower. So it's kind of thinking in that sense. It's thinking by keeping people losing turns, losing actions, while the other people are beating them up. Can you use the same character in multiple campaigns, or they should be created just for a group of people in a specific settings? There's nothing that keeps you from using the same character in more than one campaign. I really can't relate to wanting to do that. I always want to make a million characters. Like whenever I'm researching to make a character, I'm going to have 4 or 5 ideas of a character that I want to make, and I have to just choose the one that I want to make the most. So I can't imagine like wanting to use the same character again. I would definitely want to do as many characters as I want. When it comes to setting, really depends on the group. Your DM might come to you with like a pitch for a really specific setting that requires characters with backstory and stuff that fit it. Hasn't been my experience. Usually you know very little about the campaign when it starts, beyond like the gods of the setting, which can be like the generic D&D ones, or the DM can come up with his own gods, because gods are relevant for character creation, especially if you use magic and stuff. So yeah, most of my characters were basically created before I had much knowledge about the setting. So yeah, I could transfer them to most settings that are played within D&D. Like as long as it's the same system, you should be able to just copy paste your character. But again, I feel like as a bargain, I feel like the most fun part of D&D is creating your character, creating your build, also shopping, which is kind of a micro version of creating your character, because now you're just kind of augmenting them. One thing that I find a little bit overly elaborate about 3.5 is I'm not going to remember like the English terms. I think it's abilities. Cause like anyway, you get one every third level unless you're like a fighter, then you get more. But they have prerequisites where you can need certain stats to be able to have them, or already having other abilities that you need to have first. And since it's only one every third level, if you want to have them in any kind of like timely fashion, you really need to think your character ahead and already like get all their prerequisites. So like my monk, by the time I started the campaign, I had him already like all defined up to level 8, I think. Like everything he was going to get up to level 8 was already in his character sheet. I just didn't like put a check mark on the stuff until I reached that level. Design looks very cool. Thanks. Yeah, it's partially mine, partially by the player of this character. Where they had their basic idea, and then oh, thanks for the follow. That one guy named Will. What's up? You could capitalize stuff at least, would be a little bit easier to read. But yeah, welcome to the stream, thanks for following. I'm thinking what I should do next. I'm really worried about like wanting to edit stuff later and have it be too tied into other lines. Because she's kind of, you know, leaning forwards. Should I make her in layers? I could do like a torso layer, a legs layer, and a hair layer. Maybe I'll do that. I'm kind of not super happy with this torso. I feel like at least this line should be more like this. Alright, I'll just do that. I'll make it simple. Then if I don't like it, I'll edit it. What was I saying? Oh yeah, it can be that, the thinking ahead stuff, I feel can be a bit much. I get that it's for balancing. But yeah, like if you want to really make a good character, sometimes you have to like basically know everything you want to do. Like the more ahead of time you know what you are going to want to do, the best. But really there's no expectation of doing that in your first campaign, and you know, it averages out because you are one of many, or like at least like 3 characters, and also the whole campaign is being balanced to the party in real time. People are like, oh, we need to have a healer, we need to have a thief, but you know, the GM is probably going to kind of balance stuff around you. So yeah, your party is going to be a lot worse at combat if you don't have a healer, but the GM is going to like gradually be preparing the challenges relative to your abilities. So also, you know, if you don't have a thief, they're not going to give you a dungeon or whatever that really... Sorry, I keep calling them a thief, which is a wrong translation. It's a rogue. Just the word in Portuguese, you would think it would be thief. And like I play Fire Emblem a lot where there's thieves, but I meant rogue. Yeah, if you don't have a rogue, there's a bunch of dungeoning type things that you're basically just not going to be able to do. We did play in another campaign a while back. What's it called? The Tomb of Horrors. And you're absolutely not doing the Tomb of Horrors without a rogue, at least one decent rogue, because it's all secret passages and traps everywhere. So many traps. Also, you definitely need people who detect magic, and decent, you know, spellcraft, knowledge arcana stuff to figure out what the magic stuff in the dungeon is going to screw you over might do. Basically, if there's conjuration magic in something, you don't want to mess with that. It's going to throw a fireball in your face. if there's illusion magic, you might want to master that. Might be just hiding something. But yeah, it's a lot of fun. It's really just hard to get off the ground, hard for everybody to be available, even when you set the time ahead of time. I guess if everybody had like a super 9 to 5 type job where you know when you're free and when you're not, that'd be a lot easier. But that's not fully the case for basically anybody in this group. The people who do have that, again, are teachers, and teachers in the private sector as well, so they get settled with stuff that they need to do all of a sudden a lot as well. Especially some times of year, like near the end of semesters. I finally got back to playing some Pathfinder Kingmaker, which is a very similar system. Pathfinder is based on D&D 3.5. So I'm enjoying that a lot, and it's also another thing where I'm like, I really like this game, I recommend it a lot, but I don't know if it might be a little bit of a learning curve for people who are not familiar with the system. I'm pretty nervous. I'm gonna present my thesis tomorrow. Oh, well, best of luck for that. Is it like really dense in terms of what you have to present in real time, like what you have to say to them, or are you just going to like show work and you're nervous about what they're going to think of the work? Uh, 20 minutes. Yeah, 20 minutes is pretty standard. When you're presenting a thesis that's like the product of a lot of work, I always feel like the time that they give you, it feels just so small. It's so hard to make it fit inside that. And I talk fast. I usually especially talk fast if I'm self-conscious in any way. It's definitely my tendency. I hope I am successfully curbing that on stream. I try not to talk too fast. And also in Portuguese I talk faster. But yeah, I find it really difficult to condense stuff to just 20 minutes. It feels like it's going to be incomprehensible. Even though, when you're presenting a thesis, people watching theoretically already read it. They already know what it's all about. I don't have much of a reason to be nervous, but that doesn't help. Oh yeah, that's absolutely normal. Everybody gets anxious about that stuff. But yeah, I'm sure it's going to be fine. Especially, I would think in your line of study that is very dependent on the work you already did, right? Like you did that whole what was it called? The thing where you answer questions. The term is not coming to me. Questionnaire thing. That's ready. The animations are ready. You just need to talk about it. I'm sure it will be fine. Survey, that's the word. Thanks. Right, the work's already very much done. It's not something where you have to explain very abstract conceptual things. I feel probably. I mean, sure, you have to the underlying concepts behind. You have to articulate. But it's not in philosophy or law or something like that, where it's all about the spoken part, like the presentation itself is about a verbal thing. I'm really not articulating very well what I mean to say. I remember being super nervous before presenting my thesis too. Yeah, pretty much everybody is. And it's really not proportional to like how good and complete the thesis is. People who have like a super solid thesis get really nervous. And then there's some absolutely mad lads that leave everything for like the last minute and do it super quick, and then are like really confident presenting it because they don't give a fuck. But yeah, generally being nervous is a good sign. It probably means that you did your work thoroughly before and prepared yourself for it. I had to do an opposition too. I'm worried my criticisms are weird. I'm not sure what an opposition is. Do you have to like point out potential flaws with your own? Oh, an opposition. You are the person who's like evaluating someone else's thesis. Is that it? Okay. Yeah. I mean, I guess. Point out flaws in other guys' work. Yeah, I mean that's really awkward, right? Because you don't want to go super hard on someone else. Especially because, like, where I studied, the people who were, like, you present your thesis to, like, 4 or 5 people, but they're usually people who are already like they already completed whatever stage of education you're in, right? Like if it's a graduation thesis, they're probably already all at least graduates. If it's a master thesis, they're all at least masters.
Hello there.
Hello there. What's up? The one guy named Will. Feel free to talk in chat. I always like try to make like super clear that new people should feel comfortable talking in chat, because the stream is usually more fun the more people engage, even though I definitely get that some people just want to lurk and chill and not be in a social context. They probably just want background noise. This hand's a bit weird. I think like the whole thing should come a bit to the side. But yeah, I've had to be in that situation before, but yeah, it was on people who had, who were at a lower stage of education than me. Which makes it a little bit less awkward. I tried to be constructive and not go super hard. Which, to new viewers, I never really like doxed my other job. I don't really talk too much about life stuff and identifiable stuff. But anyway, I am not talking about art. I did not go to art school, and my main job isn't with art. There's always a side thing. I'm self-taught. Yeah, just to be clear. I am technically no authority in anything art related. I just do it, used to do it as a hobby, now I do it as a craft, basically. But yeah, yeah, I always want to be in more D&D games, but I want to keep things feasible. For me, it's actually relatively really easy to do the games that I do play, because I don't have to not be working. I actually draw the whole time. This is Fire Emblem, like a collection of relaxing songs from Fire Emblem. The specific song is from Echoes and it's called Song of Peace. I feel like it's some kind of menu music, like when you're promoting someone or something like that. Thanks, no problem. I really like Echoes. I'm gonna play it again someday. I have like currently a suspended hard mode playthrough of Fates, which I never finished. I never finished Fates, so I restarted the Conquest on hard mode, because then, like, the mechanics of the game aren't really bad. So at least, you know, in its most challenging form, at least it has some more interest gameplay wise, right? Actually coming up with strategies and all that. Although I do kind of have a problem. I like the classes and stuff. I'm not a huge fan of how gimmicky the stages get over time in that game. Like each stage's gimmick kind of takes over a lot. It makes it really kind of annoying to just try to do the main interesting mechanics of Fire Emblem, like having a front of characters that will survive the next round. Like one of the recent levels, one of the last ones that I played, just had wind that would blow at the end of the turn in most, like the stage was separated in columns basically, and like the stage starts and it's like, oh, this, and this, and this, like everybody in these columns is going to move. If you're here, you're fine. And the stage was like made out of really thin corridors, so usually you wouldn't be able to just have everybody be here. And anyway, they would be blown 5 full blocks to whatever that direction is, and a lot of it was like no ground. And if 5 full blocks was in no ground, it wouldn't like stop in the previous one. It would actually just round to the nearest block and put you there, so it could easily like push you 7 blocks away in the middle of a bunch of enemies. So you had to play it really kind of gradual to just keep up with that, at least in hard mode, because if you got thrown too far away in the middle of a bunch of people, you'd just be blasted immediately. Hello, what did I walk in on? Oh, I was explaining a really obnoxious stage in Fire Emblem Fates, because they get super gimmicky. Yeah, so hard mode is usually fun because the enemies are super strong and you're trying to, you know, break them down. But the gimmicks really get in the way because it forces you to play in a super conservative way, because it can usually just completely destroy you. So you're forced to play really slow. this narrower. And then just boop. It's fine. Okay. I hate the routes they give you. Which family will you backstab? Your birth one or your adopted one? Yeah, especially when it's like super clearly there's like the evil side and the good side. Even though like a couple of your siblings from the evil side are not evil, they just never, kind of noticed that their father is like cartoonishly evil. But the others just are evil as well. But yeah, like I started both of them on normal and dropped both because I was bored. And now I'm restarting Conquest, which is the evil side, on hard mode. Because Conquest is more traditional Fire Emblem, there's no infinite XP, there's no grinding, which is a lot more interesting because if you can grind, then that's just kind of the solution to every problem. Just, oh, you're having a hard time here, just grind, you'll beat it. Like, limited XP is really central to how Fire Emblem is built. You really have to kind of reimagine it a lot if you're going to make grinding be part of it. Even in, Sacred Stones and Awakening, I avoided grinding because I feel like it just... it makes it so... Not only can you just beat everything by grinding if you want it, you also get to play the mandatory stages, like the actual story stages, in a much more lax way, because in Fire Emblem part of what you're doing is you're trying to get the most XP you can out of the encounter and have characters that need that XP get it in time, because every battle enemies are getting harder, so if you have a weak unit that you want to level up, you need to make sure they get XP and make sure they get XP in time to be useful before it's kind of an arms race with the enemy, before the enemy gets too strong for them. So if you can just get XP later by grinding, then you get to just do minimal effort, just get the mission clear on the actual stages, and then just find a bunch of zombies and get strong anyway. Good to know. I started the franchise with Awakening, so yeah. I feel like Awakening, they don't like super put it in your face, but you have that possibility of fighting the zombie random encounters that appear around the map. I would generally advise against just avoiding them. Awakening is already pretty easy on normal mode. It's not really that hard in hard mode either, but the insane mode is as advertised. Like, in the first level, the bandits just have silver swords and one shot either Chrome or Robin just immediately. You have to weaken them with the paladin guy, Seth. Seth is the one from Secret Stones. The paladin guy. You have to weaken them so then they can finish off the characters for the XP. So they can gradually become kinda usable. It's really absurd. A lot of the stages that introduce a new character, the new character is just going to die instantly. There's no way you can get to them. They're just going to get immediately destroyed by enemies, because you have to be super careful and methodical with how you advance in order to level up your units so they're like over leveled and can kinda stand up to the enemies. You're totally dependent on the paladin on that one. Usually in Fire Emblem you don't want to use the paladin because he's an experience sink. Like if you only play the Awakening, it's a tradition in Fire Emblem that you just start with a paladin who is already a promoted class. So he's effectively 10 levels higher than everyone else. But he is a bad promoted class. So if he kills enemies, he gets the XP for the enemy, and he's not even going to level up with their XP. Even if he does level up, which is going to be a lot slower than the other characters, he caps out not being very strong at all. Like your other characters, if they got to the equivalent level, would be a lot stronger. That's less true in the newer ones. The Paladin and Awakening is a lot more decent. And Awakening has more of a soft level cap, where you get to keep promoting your character sideways forever. And they're just going to level up slower and slower, but you can technically max out all your stats to whatever the cap for the class is. But yeah, Fire Emblem mechanics. But Awakening is also pretty broken because the support mechanic is just so overpowered. Whether you're like you have both characters like occupy the same block and be defending each other, or they're just next to each other, people with A or S rank just get such an absurd bonus. You know, they have such a high chance of just negating damage altogether, and they get so much stronger. It's pretty busted. They basically become duos. Like the meta is just pairing up your characters, just focusing on one relationship for each, and having them be like just a power couple that's blowing through everything. And then there's barely tactics anymore, because now you have half as many units on screen, so there isn't that much of like an army structure, and they're so strong and so defensive that you really don't need that much of an army structure. Question: if you were transported into Fire Emblem, what game would you like to be dropped in? If so, then what class would you like to be? Well, most of the games involve like war with a lot of people dying, so I wouldn't be like super hype to be transported into any of them. I'm trying to think what's the last die instantly. Yeah, probably. I'm thinking what's the least harmful setting in Fire Emblem. Well, there's not like an all global war. They usually end up with like the entire continent at war. There's not a lot of yeah. Maybe 7 has the least amount of countries at war at that point, because shit really more fully hits the fan in... No, sorry, not 7? 3, 4, 5... Yeah, 7. Because 6, which is a sequel to 7, like 7 is a prequel to 6, and I feel like stuff gets more screwed in 6, but I might be remembering it wrong. But yeah, I don't know. What class would I want to be? I feel like sniper is a good good class not to die. You have like decent defense and you fight from a distance. Or maybe like what's the evolved nomad? Like, because then you're also on a horse and can just go away. That's also good. Maybe 3 houses for me, because they might teach me how to defend myself. Yeah, have more of a chance to learn what you're doing. Oh no, I'd be a knight, totally. I'll be like a knight that joins fairly late into the game, because nobody's putting me in the team, ever. Like, it's just not an opportunity where I'm actually useful. I'd be a knight in Genealogy of the Holy Wars. That's the safest Fire Emblem job ever. You're just gonna stay home, play video games all day. No, video games don't exist because it's the past. You're just gonna stay home and do nothing. Worst thing, you're stuck guarding a fortress, and even then, like, you have super high buffs. Nobody wants the fortress to fall. They're gonna have some backup for you. Like, you're safe. I try cleric or soldier. I mean, clerics kind of risky. I've lost some clerics. Clerics have no physical defense. Especially in the older games where units would spawn and move in the same turn. Which they also made it the case in the harder difficulties of Awakening. It's so insane. Like, it's not like a difficulty option, it's just unfair. It just forces you to play the level over again, like remember when and where units spawn. Like, you have no way of reacting. Like, worm riders will just like appear half a map away and fly over to you and kill your cleric in the same turn with zero chance to react. But yeah. Well, the Wyvern Riders can cover the entire map and take out your snipers. I mean, yeah, but it's really risky to get up to a sniper, like, because sniper will one-shot them, so they have to one-shot the sniper. And the sniper does have decent physical defenses, so they can at least survive the first shot, then it's a definite one shot on your side. But yeah, but I've already settled on knights. Nobody uses knights, you get to just hang out. Especially in genealogy. I don't know why they even put knights in genealogy. They like revamped the class system, and I don't know who looked at that and thought, yeah, people are going to use knights. Like, basically, if you're not mounted in genealogy, you can stay home. The maps are ridiculously huge and you're just gonna get left behind. But especially knights, like, yikes. The genealogy came up with a lot of cool ideas, and it's still a pretty terrible game in my opinion. It just doesn't work. It's really slow and draggy and incentivizes you to save scum. And it's pretty awfully balanced. Don't tell Fire Emblem fans that I said that, by the way. But did you guys watch The Matrix recently? I just watched it was on HBO, The Matrix, what is it called? Something, of course. Rebirth, whatever. Matrix is back, baby. And now it's, I don't know. It's not great, but it's probably better than at least Revolutions. Bad thing about Pegasus Knights or Wyvern Riders is that someone might throw you a pebble and you'll die instantly. Yep. I mean, less so Wyvern Riders. I feel like they're just better because they have super high physical defense, so they might even take one arrow and not even burst into flames. Pegasus Knights is like, yeah, bye. But then in 6, in Roy's game, there's an item that they can hold that annuls the arrow weakness, and you can actually get that item from a boss that is like the hardest boss in the game. It's so hard to damage it, like nothing will even hurt it. Like the defense and like he has a ranged weapon and he's just sitting there like he's one of those thrown bosses. He's just sitting there, but he has like a spear. He has a weapon that hits close and far away. If you try to hit him with magic users, he'll just instantly kill them on the same encounter. Like he'll just retaliate and kill them. And his defense is so high that physical weapons basically don't hurt him. I'm pretty sure I had to kill them with like killing edges, like just having units that could actually take the counterattack, hit them with killing edges, and then like heal them, and then like rescue the healer, so they were away from lance range, and just crit enough that it would actually lower his health. And maybe I also did the thing where like here's the boss, he will hit in like this area, right? So one turn you end up with just a unit here, then he will attack with the close range weapon, so now he will be here, and then now you can attack from here, here, whatever, without consequence, as long as you can then rescue these units with someone else before his turn, then he won't counterattack them. Might have also done that, but I feel like that one you couldn't even do that because he would just use a weapon that hits both. So I remember it being super draggy, and I feel like I just used a bunch of ammo from high crit weapons, where only the crits would hurt him. Like normal attacks would do 0 damage, but crits would actually take HP away. But yeah, after that you get the item, and by then you can just add it to a Wyvern Rider, and they're the strongest units you have. A Wyvern Rider with no arrow weakness is just a beast. I hope the years are fine. I feel like they are. But yeah, I was saying, did anybody watch The Matrix, and what did you think of it? I'm seeing conflicting opinions. I had only heard it was bad, and then one of my friends said he liked it better than the other sequels. So I was like, okay, let's give it a shot. And I think that's arguably correct. I think at the end of the day, Reloaded has a lot of really crappy stuff in it, but still has a couple of ideas that are more interesting than anything in this new one. But overall, is not terrible. Like, I just felt it kind of went back to a more basic thing, because the world building in Matrix is kind of stupid. So it told a more personal story, and it's kind of silly how personal the story is, and it's kind of very centered around like kind of a boring romance. I've only watched the first movie. Well, there's a good play. I would not recommend that you necessarily change that. The first movie is easily the best one. And it works. Like, it's a movie that ends, like, it doesn't explain the entire universe to you or anything, but it ends in a very ended place. It's not a movie that needed sequels. I don't think that it was made with, like, they didn't want to have it need a sequel for closure. So it works just fine to only watch the first Matrix. I really feel like they should have just rebooted it. Because again, the world of the Matrix is pretty dumb. And also kind of outdated, you know, technology based stories are going to be very outdated in 1 years. They should have just started over. If they want to have Keanu Reeves, they can just make him like the Morpheus equivalent. You know, more of a mentor character, and have someone else maybe be the new one. But if you're going to like comment on newer stuff, you're going to have to redo the world building. Super good. I'm surprised I haven't watched the other ones. Yeah, it's a really good movie. It really works. But yeah, the other ones are not regarded as good, and I feel like there's good reason for that. There are a couple of cool concepts in Reloaded, but there's also a lot of pretty bad things in Reloaded. They got very carried away with trying to one-up the special effects in the first movie, which was really not necessary. So they have this very prolonged, very artificial feeling action and special effect scenes, which are just kind of boring. They're just not engaging. And you know, it was the early 2000s. Characters just turn into PS2 cutscene graphics guys fighting when they have to do like physically impossible stuff. When I first watched the series as a kid, I didn't think the sequels were worse than the first one, but that was long ago. I don't know what I would think today. Yeah, as a kid you discern stuff a lot less, I feel. It's a pretty wide consensus that the first one is best, so just through general likelihood, I feel I could probably think that as an adult. But yeah. They Reloaded has like 2 or 3 like kind of interesting concepts, but those concepts are mostly like explained with people in rooms talking, and you're like, okay, I'd like a movie that would actually, you know, engage with them more rather than them being like told to you in exposition dumps. And then otherwise, I feel like a lot more playtime is just action scenes than the first one. The first one has a little bit more building up the mood and like this conspiratorial kind of vibes that they went for. The new movie kind of did that a little bit more. Is more, it kind of goes back in a way, like, I won't spoil anything because it's still pretty recent. But it goes back a little bit more to the early stuff in the first movie where you're not sure what is reality and what isn't, what extent stuff is real, and is more about discerning reality from not. So you have more like interactions of human, like normal human beings. They're gonna build a mood a little bit more than just going straight to the people in black clothes doing acrobatics in the air and slow motion. like, the first movie built up to that, and then it was there for a while, and then the movie ended. The new ones will just already start that and keep trying to like ramp it up more and more. It gets really goofy. When I had storytelling classes, my teacher told me that there was a kiss scene in the sequel, and told me that the most stupid thing they could do, and I can see why. You have a super futuristic dystopic world and they break everything with a magic kiss scene. I guess I don't fully remember that. I remember that it's weirdly in the sequels, like the sequels take a lot more place outside the Matrix. And the stuff that kind of made sense as like magic, air quotes, inside the Matrix, because it's like, oh, he can move fast, he can predict what other people are going to do, he can kind of shape reality with his mind because he's in a world made of information, and he can like see how that system works and kind of affect it. So, magic exists because you're inside a computer, basically. But then magical stuff start happening outside the computer world and in ways that aren't justified by being inside a simulation and having seen that you are inside a simulation. And that stuff, yeah, I guess kind of silly in a lore way. As I said, the lore is very bad. But yeah, what I will say is it's a very... they're very individualistic movies. They're not super, despite we live in a society that the man wants to control your thoughts. It's very much about... It has a very individualistic world view, where like you are the special, they don't want you to see the truth, because they're kind of curtailing your ability to be the special, and like your love is the most important thing in the world that will change the world, which is fine. Like, it's a mode of abstraction, right? It's like the story is about people and about emotions, so in the allegory of the story, the emotions of people change the literal world, because that's the story you want to talk about. It's kind of, even though it's it's science fiction, it's still kind of an allegorical, magical thinking type of story. But yeah, it can get pretty silly and ham-handed, like the way they did it later on. And then there's like, and this is since the first movie, the general lore of the Matrix is just aggressively dumb and makes it impossible to tell serious stories that involve a lot like the outside of the Matrix. For those who don't remember or haven't seen the movie, there was a war between humans and robots, which the reasons for which are not really established in the movies. I think just the Animatrix gets into that. But anyway, people made robots. Robots decided to take over. They are fighting the humans. The robots are solar powered. It's very nice, very green of them. But the humans had this fucking brilliant idea where they're like, oh, the robots are solar powered? Let's block out the entire sun. Let's use a weapon that covers the sky and clouds, so the sun doesn't get to the earth anymore, and then the robots are going to run out of energy and stop working, which is just galaxy brain, except humans are also solar powered, because all of our foods, all of our calories, like vitamin D, and we need the sun to live. We're also going to die without the sun, but they seemingly didn't think of that. And then the robots decide, oh, we're going to use humans then, since we can get energy from the sun. Let's use the humans as a form of energy, because somehow humans produce energy, and like instead of needing food to have energy, humans make energy out of nothing, I guess. I'm not sure, like they need no energy to keep us alive inside the Matrix, and instead they extract energy from keeping us alive inside a huge computer. and they somehow have the time with no power. Like they weren't able to beat humans before, but with no power, they are capable of like capturing most humans and putting them in giant facilities that they also built from nothing to put us inside a supercomputer, which apparently doesn't use a lot of energy to work. Like the giant supercomputer, with people looking into it, has like makes more energy than it spends somehow. So we're always on the computer as an energy source. Like it's very dumb. You can't think about it for a second. There are humans who escaped the Matrix and are living in the Earth in caverns. Where are they getting anything in an Earth with no sun? Inside a cavern. Where are you getting food? How are you alive? The world makes no sense. You can think about it for a second. Even the new movies, like the new one, they're like, oh, we used to just eat like paste, which was never established where it got. Now we're actually growing vegetables because we made genetically modified plants that can grow under the ceiling lights. Like, what are the ceiling lights powered by? There's no sun, the robots had no power other than humans. What power source are you tapping into? How do you have the ceiling lights? Is it powered by the Matrix as well? Then if you get everybody out of the Matrix, is everybody just going to die outside the Matrix because you're now out of power? It's really, really bad world building. So it really only works for that super personal story that the first Matrix told, and I feel like the new one also gets to work a little bit more in that way. They're very personal stories. They're stories about individual people and their little specialness. So you're not as concerned with the literal logic of the outside world. It's really all about the Matrix and reality versus not reality and kung fu. Because really the Matrix isn't like a super deep movie either. It does kind of, it is a very anime influenced movie. It does the anime thing where you bring in some like weighty topics and kind of deal with them more as a way to make the film and the world feel cool and elaborate than because like you have a super interesting thing to say about Plato's cave or whatever. Yeah, I really don't think like if you were to like take a lot of life morals from the movie, I don't even think they would be good morals and good themes at all. Neo-kun, yeah, like it's super anime based. They say they took. I've heard the story before. The Wachowskis took. Like there was a big producer. He's dead now. He was Silver something. His name. Who produced The Matrix. Back when there were like really big producers that could get stuff greenlit, there was actually they were actually putting a reputation behind it, so they got to do something that was a bit different and not just based on market data about how marketable the brand name behind the movie is. So this guy didn't know anything about like it's kind of more Eastern stuff that the Matrix draws from. So they just chose them Ghost in the Shell, and they said we want to do something like this, and it was like, yeah, this looks like it would work, and people would think it's cool. So make it. But yeah, like the morals of the actual movie I don't think they are super great at the end of the day. Like the whole conspiracy theory kind of, you know, Illuminati, Alex Jones stuff. And the man doesn't want you to know that, you know, the whole red pill thing became used by some really shitty people, and I don't think it is that they're like completely off the mark on the themes of the movie. Like, of course, the authors of the movie aren't actual awful bigoted people, but the story takes a lot of tropes from that kind of fit that mindset to tell a story about like this messianic guy who is more important than everyone else, and everybody's just trying to curb his greatness and falsely convince him that he's a normal guy and not the greatest person who ever lived, who's going to change the world because only he sees the truth. Because he's a cool hacker nerd who's way better than his boss. Like, it kind of sounds like a story that a school shooter would write. Which, you know, is fine. You are not responsible for the directions that awful people take your story in. But I'm just saying it's not like super far off from where the people took it. And I think you can just tell fun stories and not be worried about like the secondary implications of every theme you implement to get to the flying kung fu. I'm lazy, I'm going to copy the inner ear. Gonna practice my presentation and then head to bed. Take care, everyone. Take care, Blargin. Good luck tomorrow. Let me know how it ends next time you drop by. I'm sure it's going to be fine. Like, everybody gets super nervous about presentations, but I wouldn't know of a single time I've heard of one actually like going wrong. Like, if it wasn't good enough, you would have been told beforehand. You're going to do great, and yeah, see you around. What's up, Concuvar? Just dropped my pen. We are drawing an RPG character and talking about the Matrix. Yeah, I'm thinking, what else have I watched recently? Other than, like, when it comes to recent stuff. Sounds like a damn good time. Cool. Did you watch the latest one? I was talking more about the movies in general because I really didn't have that much to say about the latest one. But I feel like it has mixed reviews. Let me see. I'll take a quick pause to look up Resurrection, I think is the name. No, I haven't. Well, let me see. Matrix, Resurrection, Rotten Tomatoes. Let's see how it's doing. 63-64%. That's one of the more balanced audience and critic scores I've seen before. Let me see IMDb. Usually the audience and critics diverge more, I feel. Doesn't IMDb have a score? I thought they also compiled scores. Oh, here it is, 5.7. I'll have to check it out. I don't know if that's actually I think that's a pretty average score. So yeah, I don't think it's anything great. But again, no Matrix sequel. Like, I wouldn't call any of the sequels good. Like, I think Reloaded has a couple cool ideas and moments, but it's mostly pretty bad, and Revolutions is just entirely bad. The Animatrix is pretty dumb, and I was talking about, like, you know, kind of irresponsible themes with stuff that can be taken by people who aren't very stable or who aren't, you know, have issues with the whole red pill thing, how it was appropriated by manosphere people. There's also in the Animatrix, which I feel isn't that well known, considering it came out like the year following the original Matrix, I think, and is the actual backstory to the Matrix. That's just really bad. And it has one story that is a guy that appears later in Revolutions. And it's like a dude who escaped the Matrix by he has like visions of Neo, and then he decides, oh, the world isn't real, I have seen the truth, and the man wants to stop him, but he jumps off his school, like the roof of his school, to like get out of the Matrix, and like people are trying to stop him because they don't want him to leave the Matrix and see the truth. So he has to like run from like police and jump off his school building. Like I feel like that's a pretty responsible thing to like glamorize and show in that way, like a school-aged person, you know, and that you really feel those kind of stuff in that era. Like that stuff, things don't really feel real, and you feel like the world is fake and everybody is kind of, you know, you usually feel very limited and held down and held back. I am looking for some kind of epiphany. So it's a bit sketch. Yeah. Like I feel like they were just trying to use like deep imagery and really didn't think hard enough about this, and how that, you know, people can get the kind of stuff into their heads and actually do something like that. Teenagers are not super connected to reality. Yeah, they're trying to be shock value and edgy, and you know, I don't think it's really. I thought that was really irresponsible. And then like, the actual backstory to the robots rebelling against the humans is like, it's basically, I've only seen like stuff some gameplay of, but it's kind of Detroit Become Human, where it's just this absurdly on the nose analogy to real world civil rights and racial equality movements. With the robots being so obviously on the right, like they're obviously sapient and are treated completely awfully by humans, and like a ton of scenes are just direct reproductions of actual historical scenes with like civil rights stuff in the US, or even I think there's a scene, there's like that general in Vietnam who's shooting a soldier in the head. There's a scene that's just that same one. It's so on the nose and so tasteless. It's such a bad story because like it seems so absurd that it would be like so like robots would be so 100% human and still be treated like that. It's like obviously the robots are on the right. Yeah, it's almost shot for shot animated footage of the civil rights stuff. Yeah. A lot of scenes are just they basically animated over famous pictures. It's so, that's just really dumb. It's pretty insulting. just in general. I was going to do the hair in a separate layer. Maybe I won't. Screw it, I'll just do it everything in one layer. It's fine, I'm sure it will be fine. Looking really good, thanks. Have you seen the other ones? Let me pull them up real quick. This is for a campaign I'm playing, so here are the other characters. This one. Here's the other. And here's the other. And then there's this one, and there's going to be this monkey man and this turtle lady. I just did some art of Justin from Critical Role. Oh yeah, those are fantastic, thanks. I don't really follow, I just mentioned this before, I never really got into those. I kind of wanted to, but when I tried to get into those D&D podcasts, like the one that I tried, I just spent too much time without listening to it, and I lost the plot, and I was like, I'm not going to have like the dedication to actually follow one of these. I'll post on Twitter later tonight. Cool. If you want to, I think that we do sometimes, yes, people also share their art here and we talk about it, but only if you want to do that. What am I going to do? Into the legs. Oh yeah, let's do legs. Let's zoom out. I don't need to be that clean. I feel like the volume's kind of oscillating, now it's low. Is there like a key to... Yeah, it's up. Up changes the volume. I had to pull the art, and it's a bit of a pain in the neck. Okay, yeah. Just if you felt like it. I'm thinking whether I want to move this leg a little bit. Can I have it more down here like this? Let me look at it. It loses some... becomes a little bit less dynamic, I guess. It also gets more behind the arm. It just gets too behind the arm and the arrow. I kind of feel like this might work, but it gets too far behind. Thank you, man, no problem. I like talking about art and putting people's work here to talk about it. I always welcome anybody listening, always welcome to share. They made the leg way too realistic in proportion in there, like musculature and stuff. This is not the art style. I would just do it like I sketched it. Maybe just a tiny bit less white. This feels almost like a Donkey Kong Country song. I guess now less so, but the instrumentation on the previous part sounded very Donkey Kongy. Okay. I am a really big fan of Fire Emblem. Obviously, I was talking really in depth about Fire Emblem earlier, and also really like Shin Megami Tensei. But Fire Emblem plus Shin Megami Tensei, whatever it was called, does not seem very appealing to me. Maybe I should look more into it. But there was I remember it because there was the first trailer where like the Fire Emblem song starts playing and they are singing over it by saying Fire Emblem, and then like Martin Super Saiyan Blue or something. It's like Tokyo Mirage Sessions, right? Like it's Fire Emblem plus Shin Megami Tensei, but they named it something completely different. Yeah, no, they just said it. Yeah, Tokyo Mirage Sessions. Maybe I should look more into it. Like I could emulate it if I wanted. Because I'm pretty sure it's it's just Wii U. Such a weird idea. I don't even know how it's played, because there are Shin Megami all the way back to the Super Nintendo. There was a Fire Emblem style Shin Megami Tensei, which was pretty good. It's basically Fire Emblem, but you have to recruit the enemies like during battle to kind of build your army, and you make most of your army out of the demons you fight. It's pretty cool. It's kind of rough in the way that Super Nintendo Fire Emblems were also rough, but it was pretty good. And Devil Survivor is more of a tactics kind of thing, less so Fire Emblem, more Final Fantasy Tactics, but it's also pretty good. So if it's a tactics Shin Megami Tensei, they have done that well. But just that trailer, man, that trailer did not look good. And I don't even know how it works, because like it's SMT, right? It's not Persona. But it kind of looked like Persona rules. Like each user had one Fire Emblem character. There was their whatever it's called in this universe. Man got a bounce, but really dig what you're doing. Thanks. Yeah. It's cool to have you around. See you later. Gotta search for the trailer now, lol. Yeah, watch it. It's something. It's a thing that exists, that's for sure. And I feel like rewatching actually now. After the stream I'm gonna rewatch that, because it's some weird cringe. And I feel I don't remember when it came out, but it was probably like around the time of Fire Emblem Fates and Heroes, and like before Echoes, where it really looked like Fire Emblem was just going to completely like insane anime mode. So then the silly trailer comes out, it's like, okay, that's it for Fire Emblem. Series has gone like senile. It's just going to be weird anime shit now. Like progressively weirder anime shit. But then Echoes came out and it was pretty normal. And Three Houses kinda, wasn't full weep in the way, I guess. The aesthetic wasn't as bad as Fates and Heroes. Because I think maybe, I don't know if Fire Emblem Heroes did super well, but I feel like depending on how well Fire Emblem Heroes did relative to the main games, Nintendo was probably willing to just turn Fire Emblem into like a waifu generating device, like, you know, like Fate rather, or something, where it's just periodically spit out some new waifus that you can sell merchandise and gachas of. Yeah, I've been playing. Actually, in another stream, I mentioned that I started playing Devil Survivor and it was really hard. But then I got back to it and it was immediately not hard. I don't know if back when because I just took it from where I was and I had just played the beginning. And then I just played the next battle and the next battle wasn't difficult anymore. And then I just got access to like recruiting new demons, then demon fusion and stuff, to the point that you get to just build a team. And it was just never hard again. I don't know if I was being dumb in the tutorial when you had really limited tools and just sucking at video games, but I thought the game was going to be really hard and it turned out to actually not be hard. It's, you know, it's not easy either, it's just really well balanced. Not that I don't think I put it in a way that sounded like a criticism, but it's not really fair to say it's really hard. It's perfectly fine. And it's pretty interesting because, you know, it takes the cool stuff about SNT and puts it in a very different kind of format that lets you, doesn't feel like the same game again. And it's really good mechanics. Like SNT uses type advantages so much better than Pokemon. In the single player at least. Like I know Pokemon is balanced in the competitive scene, or at least the competitive scene is basically able to make an interesting balanced game out of it. Like a meta emerges that has strategy and stuff. But the single player is so mindless. It's just do the super effective thing until you've won. Like sometimes like the extra end game challenge is actually interesting, but for the vast majority of the game they don't even like use stuff. The early games didn't even have like the post game, but the new ones, they actually even show, it's not even just multiplayer, they even show like we know how to make interesting difficulty teams for the enemies. We just don't for the entire main game. And SNT has a way where, it doesn't have to be like super hard for it to not be mindless because it's not that overpowered. So it just gets to be interesting for the whole game. And you get so much more freedom and stuff about building teams that are interesting. It actually incentivizes you switching your demons instead of Pokemon where the mechanics incentivize you just keeping a one team or even one Pokemon. Like the easiest, most practical way to beat the game is to just use the same things forever. SMT always has you kind of switching up your builds. Because like EXP wise, Pokemon punishes you for changing Pokemon. Because yours is always going to be higher level than like a new one that you're trying to train up to be useful. But like the fusion mechanic in SMT, and the fact that you're generally recruiting monsters already at the level that you are, kind of rewards you for switching things up. Because demons stop learning good new moves fairly early, so if you want to like make new builds, you make those new builds by fusing demons and inheriting abilities from the other ones, and they already start at your level, so it really rewards you for switching things up all the time and keeps the game a lot more interesting. You never just settle on a winning strategy. Or just win by having either a really strong thing on your team or one that, or you know, one of each type, and then whatever advantage you have, you just win. Because also, you know, demons come in encounters with more than one, so you can't swipe in that way. Sweep, rather. Oh, and what about the new Pokemon? Anybody in chat play it? Arceus or Arceus, whatever the pronunciation. I just watched some gameplay. Don't really get super into it. Don't know how people are liking it or not. How are we time-wise? Fairly close to my arbitrary limit. Yeah, maybe I'll actually take some time off after this. Maybe play some Pathfinder. I also started, because it's a really fast game, like I played 2 hours I guess, and I'm a good ways into it. The Mummy Demastered by Way Forward, which is pretty fun. Like it's a basic Metroidvania kind of thing, but it's fun, it flows. Way Forwards just makes games with like good game feel. It's like junk food of games, you know. It's not like they're masterpieces of anything, but they feel really nice. You know, it's like comfortable styles of game, you know, well-worn kind of styles. They're not reinventing the wheels or anything. They just execute it in like a likable way, and the games flow well. Really a good workman-like studio, you know. They're putting stuff out that's always well done. Not trying to be anything like super ambitious or different, but always doing a pretty good job. So they're relaunching. Like they made River City Girls, which is of course a spin-off of Kunio-kun, which is in the West. River City Ransom was one of the first games in the series, ported and kind of Americanized. But yeah, so now there's going to be a River City Girls too, but also they are doing like a re-release of the Super Nintendo, or rather Super Famicom game, where the girls from River City Girls originated, because that never came out in the West. But I have actually played that game, and it's not very good. It just has not aged very well. It feels really clunky. It's not the kind of game that you're like bringing into the present, like, oh, this is a gem that you should like. It was fine for its time. Beat 'em ups were pretty shallow back then, so it's like a beat 'em up with a plot basically, and where you get new moves every once in a while, but it's really nothing special. So like to make a big deal, like a big release out of it, feels like a shot in the foot. People are going to be underwhelmed. Like it really didn't age nearly as well, in my opinion, as River City Ransom, which is a really good game. Like it's simpler, but it realizes what it is. Like it not realizes as in notices it. Like it goes for one thing and achieves it. This one feels like more of an awkward attempt. But there's a lot of other stuff to bring to the West, like Mother Tree, which is kind of insane. I think Nintendo's problem with Mother Tree is the subject matter. It gets really heavy. Like it probably has an aesthetic that they figure people in the West are going to think, okay, this is a kid's game, and then they would either have to like censor it or make it not appropriate for kids, because there's just some heavy stuff there. Like Japan's a lot more lenient when it comes to just dark things in kids content. Like the beginning gets really sad, and yeah, just I feel like it could probably just be a T rating. I don't feel like the T rating is still super strict, but it has to be a T rating. There's no way that make that an M just because of some subject matter in there, because it would be really like a real shame to censor it. But I feel like if they released it nowadays, that the audience would be mostly adults. They just should release it and let them rate it whatever they rate it. And they don't even have to translate the game. The people who made the translation back in the 2000s first did an amazing job. It's such a good translation. Like it's not good for a fan project, really good by any patterns. For a hard to translate game, because it has a lot of wordplay, a lot of people who talk in different mannerisms, a lot of humor in the way that stuff is presented and narrated and said, that all it's executed really well. And the people who did it just told Nintendo, you can release this exact translation if you want. It is available to you to release for profit if you want to. So they could just do that. Especially nowadays with digital downloads and a lot of their own platforms already being able to play digital downloads of GBA games. It's literally as easy as dragging a file over to their system and pressing OK. They could just make the game available. It would take zero work, $0 to make it available. Oh well. That's the thing I say about, like, the role of emulators and stuff. It's pretty surprising how little interest publishers have in making things that they already own available for purchase. Also, like, Roy is in Smash Bros. A lot of people like Roy. A lot of people like Fire Emblem nowadays. A lot of new Fire Emblem fans. Because the new games got a lot more popular than the classic ones ever were. Why would you not make Fire Emblem 6 just available for download? Again, there are fan translations that you can just steal, but even if they wanted to make their own, it would be really cheap. Why not just make it available? But they don't seem to think it's worth, like, the minimal effort it would do. It just feels so obvious. Like, you see the absolute garbage that gets posted on Steam. It's not free to publish a game on Steam. Like, they'll publish pretty much anything, but you need to deposit like $100 or something. So even the garbagest asset flip, unfinished like game you've ever seen for like $1 on Steam, even that at least expected to make more than $100. Like, most of them are like kids, like, you're supposed to be 18, but it's definitely teenagers just learning Unity and posting it because why not? But they still have to at least think that there's a decent chance they're going to make $100 from that. Like, imagine how much a Nintendo game makes, like a GBA game that was never available. Like, it's so obviously profit. There's no way that there's not a huge profit, even if you did the translation all the way over. They just seemingly don't feel like doing it. They don't even feel like it's worth doing it. So I guess we need like emulators and stuff to even like preserve games, because they will usually just not be available anymore. You'd think, with digital downloads there would also always be an incentive for everything to be available, because why not? But apparently not so. There's also a bunch of games that nobody even knows for sure who they belong to. because whoever published them originally doesn't exist anymore. They got dissolved and like taken apart and sold to a bunch of different people at different times, and sometimes until you can negotiate something or take something to trial to like decide who technically got something based on like past contracts. It's not like decided, and the games are not worth going to trial over. So there are games that are like who owns this, and it's like not super clear. I know we are already at 2 hours. Yeah, I feel like I'm not. Yeah, it would take still a while for me to finish this one, so there's no point, prolonging it until I finish it. Just going to call it a day for streaming. And yeah, I'll see you guys around, I guess. I figured there's probably not enough people to. I guess we could raid somebody. Let me just check. If somebody I know is on, have a great one, take care, you too. Let me just see if there's somebody I know already on stream. I'm not going to like search for random artists, I'm just going to see. A bunch of people on stream. Yeah, let's drop by somebody then. Just to say that we did. What's going on here? Well, there's art going on and it looks really pretty, so let's do this. Raid / the name. That's how it works, right? Nope, I just messed it up. /raid? /raid? Yeah, /raid's the name. There you go. I know how to Twitch. Okay, let's go then. See you guys around. Thanks for dropping by. See you next time. Bye.